Here's a familiar situation. You're in a drive-thru line that's moving fast and you can already taste the soft serve. You order a cone or a McFlurry and the reply comes back like a reflex. Sorry, the ice cream machine is down. It happens so often that people stop sounding surprised, like the restaurant is apologizing for the weather. Here's the part most customers never hear. A lot of the time, the machine isn't broken in the way you think. The real story is a chain of rules, sensors, contracts, and incentives that can take perfectly good ice cream offline. The broken McDonald's ice cream machine became a shared punchline because it kept happening in every city at every hour. People posted screenshots of their failed dessert orders, then compared notes with friends who'd heard the same line across town. Memes turned the machine into a mythical creature, always rumored to exist, rarely seen working. That repetition trained customers to notice patterns. It wasn't random bad luck. It felt like a predictable system failure. Once something becomes a meme, every new outage feels like proof, and every working cone feels like an exception. The joke also travels because it's low stakes but emotionally sharp. You can forgive a restaurant for running out of napkins, but being denied a treat feels personal. Eventually, someone asked a simple question: if this is happening everywhere, can we measure it? Outage trackers appeared that let customers check nearby locations before they even left home. Some relied on crowdsourced reports, where customers and employees submitted updates as soon as they heard the bad news. Others tried to detect availability indirectly, like watching whether the dessert menu could be added to an order in an app. Maps filled with little dots, some marked available, others marked down, and the clusters looked eerily consistent. The strange part wasn't that machines failed. Every machine fails sometimes. The strange part was the scale. A national chain selling a signature dessert with downtime that felt like a repeating pattern. Once the data was public, the mystery shifted from why me to why this company, and the answer had to be bigger than one broken part. Most McDonald's locations rely on commercial soft-serve machines built for volume, not for simplicity. A common brand in many stores is Taylor, a company that specializes in frozen dessert equipment used across the industry. Soft serve seems easy. Milk goes in, ice cream comes out. But the machine is doing controlled chemistry every minute. The mix sits in refrigerated hoppers up top, kept cold enough to slow bacterial growth before it ever reaches the freezing chamber. From there, it moves into a metal cylinder where the magic happens. The walls are chilled, and a rotating beater scrapes the freezing surface constantly. That scraping matters because a thin, frozen layer has to form evenly. Too thick and the motor strains, too thin, and the product comes out soupy. The machine also injects air into the mix, a controlled overrun, that changes texture, volume, and even how fast the cone melts in your hand. And the machine can't just freeze, it has to seal. Gaskets, O-rings, and tight-fitting parts keep dairy from leaking into places it shouldn't because a hidden drip can become a bacteria problem fast. Now add one more detail, the McFlurry. The soft serve comes from the same system, but it gets paired with toppings and mixed with a special spindle, so the machine's consistency has to be right every time, or the whole dessert falls apart. One reason the machine breaks is that it has a schedule, and the schedule doesn't care about rush hour. Many commercial soft-serve units run a heat treatment, or pasteurization, cycle that heats the dairy mix and then cools it back down. The goal is to reduce bacterial growth so the mix can stay in the machine longer without being dumped and cleaned every single day. Heat treatment is a trade. Fewer full teardown cleanings, but more reliance on a precise automatic routine. During that cycle, the machine may refuse to dispense because the product isn't at serving temperature yet. The cycle also takes time, and time gets awkward in a restaurant that runs late. If a store starts the cycle after closing, the machine can still be heating or cooling when an early morning customer asks for a cone. To the customer, it sounds like the machine is down. To the operator, the machine is busy proving the dairy is safe again. If the cycle gets interrupted, whether by power fluctuation, a door left open, or a sensor reading out of range, the machine can log it as a safety failure. Some models respond by locking out service until the full cycle completes correctly because the machine can't assume the dairy stayed safe. And if a crew member accidentally cancels the routine or loads the system incorrectly, the machine can punish that mistake with hours of forced downtime. Soft-serve machines are packed with sensors, temperature probes, mix-level switches, motor load readings, and safety interlocks that detect whether parts are seated correctly. They watch for conditions that can damage hardware or create unsafe product, and they translate those conditions into error codes. Some errors are small, like a hopper running low so the system might start pulling in air and changing texture. Other errors are protective, like the beater, drawing too much current because ice is building unevenly inside the barrel. There are also errors that are basically the machine begging for hygiene. Many systems track how long it has been since a full disassembly and sanitizing cycle, then demand cleaning before they'll keep serving. Cleaning a soft serve machine is not a quick wipe down. It can mean pulling parts, brushing internal surfaces, soaking components in sanitizer, and reassembling everything without pinching a seal or misaligning a blade. A missing gasket can create a tiny leak. A tiny leak can trigger a sensor. A triggered sensor can shut the machine down, and the error message might not explain the real cause in plain language. In a home appliance, you might restart and hope for the best. In a commercial dairy system, hope is exactly what the rules are designed to remove. A shutdown can require specific steps in a specific order. Confirm temperatures, clear the error, sometimes run a full heat cycle again, and then wait. Employees in a busy store may not be trained for that, and many aren't given access to deeper diagnostic menus. So the simplest fix, restart, clear, keep serving, often isn't allowed, even if the machine is physically fine. Then there's the way these machines get repaired, which is less like calling a handyman and more like calling a specialist. Taylor machines are often serviced through authorized technicians who have the tools, parts, and permissions to do certain kinds of work. That authorization can matter because modern equipment can hide advanced settings behind service logins, and some repairs require proprietary software. Even reading the machine's deeper history, what happened last night, which temperature spiked, which component drifted out of range, may be restricted. The practical effect is that a store manager may know something is wrong, say a recurring sensor fault, but still can't fix it in-house. When the machine throws a serious code, the safest legal move is to stop using it and wait for approved service. Now mix in economics. A service call costs money, and a franchise owner has to decide whether to pay for a visit today or try to coax the machine through one more cycle. Desserts can be profitable, but they're not the only thing a store sells, and a manager under pressure may prioritize burgers over sundaes. Even the timing can work against the store. If an error hits late at night, the machine might be locked out for breakfast, and the first technician slot might be hours or days away. Downtime becomes predictable, not because the machine loves breaking, but because the repair path is narrow, controlled, and often scheduled like an appointment. Most McDonald's restaurants are run by franchise owners, and that changes how problems get solved. A franchisee is responsible for staffing, training, and day-to-day operations, but they also have to follow corporate standards. Those standards can dictate which equipment is approved, how it's maintained, and which service providers are allowed to touch it. That means a store can't always shop around for a faster repair, even if a local technician could fix the issue in an hour. Inside the store, the frontline workers are juggling speed, accuracy, food safety, and the constant pressure of the timer. Drive-thru performance is measured, and the crew learns quickly that slow lines create complaints that cascade through the whole shift. If the ice cream machine is throwing an error during a rush, the fastest way to protect the line is to stop selling desserts. Every minute spent troubleshooting is a minute the drive-thru backs up, refunds start, and the team gets stuck explaining delays they can't control. There's also training reality. Fast food turnover can be high, and the detailed care of a complex machine doesn't always survive a rotating cast of new employees. A shift might have one person who knows the cleaning routine, and when they're off, the machine's quirks become everyone's problem. Shutting the machine down becomes a survival move, a necessary decision to prevent a long meltdown. Sometimes it even means it's in a heat cycle, or it's cooling, or we can't risk messing with it right now. But the customer hears one simple story. The story got even stranger when outsiders tried to solve it with technology. A third-party company built a device that connected to the machine and translated its internal signals into clearer, faster guidance. Instead of a cryptic code, it could tell staff what failed, what step to take next, and whether a basic reset would actually solve the problem. Some versions promised remote monitoring too, so an owner could see machine health without standing in the kitchen. For franchise owners, that sounded like fewer outages, fewer wasted service calls, and fewer customers driving away empty-handed. But access to diagnostic data is power, and power tends to attract conflict. Corporate leadership warned franchisees about using unauthorized tools, arguing that unapproved devices could create safety risks or violate agreements. Equipment manufacturers also have incentives to keep tight control of diagnostics because diagnostics determine who gets paid to fix the problem. Legal disputes followed, and suddenly the broken ice cream meme was sitting inside a much bigger argument about who's allowed to repair the things they bought. Right-to-repair activists recognize the pattern immediately. When the manual is locked and the data is gated, the owner becomes dependent on the vendor. In this case, owner meant thousands of franchise operators, and vendor meant a tightly controlled ecosystem of parts, passwords, and authorized service. The debate isn't really about desserts. It's about whether modern machines are becoming black boxes on purpose, and who benefits when the box stays closed. So are McDonald's ice cream machines badly designed? Not exactly. They're designed to prioritize food safety, consistency, and liability control in a high-volume environment, and that design makes them strict. A strict machine is a machine that stops when anything looks wrong, even when a human would gamble and keep serving. Layer on top a nightly heat cycle that can take the machine out of service, plus sensors that trigger lockouts, plus limited access to diagnostics, and downtime starts to look inevitable. Then add the franchise reality. Understaffed shifts, rushed training, and a repair process that often requires an approved specialist. Put all of that together and the phrase "always broken" starts to make sense as a customer description, even if the hardware isn't constantly failing. Sometimes the machine is offline because it's protecting the product. Sometimes it's offline because a small human mistake created a big automated consequence. Sometimes it's offline because fixing it quickly isn't as simple as turning a key. It's a phone call, a service ticket, and a wait. The meme survives because the system produces the same customer experience again and again. You never get to hear about the safety cycles, sensors, or service contracts. You just hear the same short explanation every time. It's broken. And the next time you pull into a McDonald's drive-thru, you might wonder whether the machine really failed, or if it was actually the result of the faulty system behind it all.